everybody. Welcome again to Choices Finding Your Joy. Happy to have you with us today, and I am thrilled to share another amazing guest. You're just going to love the show today. We have with us Darlene Corbett. She is a professional speaker, author, licensed therapist coach. Her expertise is helping people get unstuck. Darlene is a high-content speaker with an engaging style. She has a book that was released last November, Stop Depriving the World of You, and we're going to talk about that today as well. She has been all over the place on TV and has done so many things, and I'm excited to learn more about her. So first off, Darlene, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor.
Oh, honored to have you, my dear.
Thank you.
Well, I would love to have you share a bit of your background and really what brought you to where you are today with, so much happening. And
Sure. So I've been I've been a therapist for most of my adult life. And I've had a private practice, which I still do in Needham, and I see the most wonderful people in the world. And in my 50s, some changes came about in my life, my personal life. We moved back to the central Mass area. So Needham, where my practice is located, is about 20 miles southwest of Boston. But my husband became disabled. He has this chronic disease. And we decided, he left it up to me, but we decided to go closer to Central Mass. That's where I was raised, and we had some supports out there. So I moved back there, and I started to think about what else might I do in this next chapter of my life. I love being a therapist, but there was something pursuing me, or I was pursuing something within me. And then my mother, I took care of her last few weeks of life. She took a one-way flight to heaven, as I tell people. And that made me also begin to think, what could I do? So I decided I want to take my message to a larger platform. And I began to explore the speaking world. With that, I began to start writing articles and blogs. They say you should do that. So I did. I went a lot of trepidation at first, but then it became very, very much part of my daily exercise, or weekly exercise, should I say. But really, I was writing sometimes a day, but having blogs out once a week. And then finally, my articles got in front of a publisher's assistant, and she said, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "No, well, maybe later." But I hadn't really thought about it in the immediate future. And I had a conversation with the publisher, and that was the beginning of my book.
Oh, I love it.
So that's what helped me, get from therapist to speaker to writer to all of them.
Yes, that is so fantastic. And I absolutely love the title of your book.
Yes.
Stop Depriving the World of You. I love that. Well, tell us about that theme.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what the audience would find in your book.
So I'll tell you how I got the title. Is I started saying to clients, I see lovely people, high functioning. Some people have many successes in their life, but they obviously come to seek my services because there's an issue. And so once the issues resolve, a lot of them are fearful about, going out in the world again in whatever form that means. So I started to say, you need to stop depriving the world of you. And then I put a part of my keynote, and then my publisher to be at the time said, "There's your title." I said, "You're right." And I really mean it. My book is a guide of helping people get unstuck. And I talk about that stuckness is a way of life. We all get stuck. But the reality is that nothing stays the same. The universe is in flux. We're constantly changing. Our cells are forming, multiplying, dividing. So we must continue to think about that and realize that we're all capable of change, that you can teach an old dog new tricks. I had my mother's dog live with us for a while, and he was an example of that. And so I give various examples in the book of how this can be done. It's not just based on my years of experience, but it's also based on the science of neuroplasticity, which talks about that the brain is malleable from the day we enter this world until the day we depart. And there's a technique called mental rehearsal. And why that resonates so much with me, which I talk about in the book, is because I'm a hypnotherapist, and it talks about the ability to change habits and behavior. And so all of this has been in the book, and I developed an acronym from unstuck to help people practice.
Yes. I love it. I
Yes.
love it.
Yes.
Because, when we get unstuck, we open up so much for ourselves, but we also open up so much for others.
Yes.
Because, we're connected, and they, for one, they see what we become, and they're inspired, would you say?
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right. And I talk about that also because relationships affect relationships. So if you make a shift, it can have them shift also. And I talk about the butterfly effect in my book also, that, the wings, the small movements of a butterfly can have an impact on the other side of the world later in life. And whether you believe that or not, although the science says it does happen, metaphorically speaking, we do. We can have such impact on other people if we make a change, a shift, and believe in them. We don't always know the story sometimes, how it ends.
Isn't that so true? And
Yes.
we may not even know what giving someone a smile can do.
That's right.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It could change their whole day.
Yes. Yes. And, because I've always found it fascinating when you walk into a crowded room and you have a big smile on your face, how it really kind of affects the room.
Yes.
And everyone
it makes
around
those
you.
attractive, right? You feel more comfortable with those people often. If obviously if it's authentic, but if you feel they want to engage you, I agree with you.
Yes. Yes. And I know something that you've talked about is the power of healing through visualization and scripting.
Yes.
Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about that.
Yes. Well, it goes along with, it's a habit. It's an exercise. You have to practice it. And they talk about so many people that are able to do that. And for example, I'll give you one. It's called mental chess. It's the highest form of mental rehearsal. And they use the phenomenon that we all have, a focused attention. But the mental chess example is a man that way back in the 70s, maybe, he was captured by the Soviets. And he was put in solitary confinement. That was before, obviously, the fall of the Soviet Union. He knew his brain would atrophy if he did not do something. What did he do? He began to practice mental chess back and forth on a regular basis. 9 years later, he was released from prison. His brain was intact. He went to Israel. At some point, Garry Kasparov, the world chess player, the world chess champion, he went to Israel, and all these people wished to challenge him, and they did, but he won, except for this gentleman beat him, because it talks about that mental rehearsal and that practice of visualization and scripting can be more powerful than the physical act itself.
Wow. So he was visualizing that
Yes.
he was playing a game of chess?
That's right.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Yes.
Think of all the different things we could visualize and do. And really, we'd be exercising our brain, wouldn't we?
That's right. That's right. It's really, it's that visualizing over and over and saying you can do it, adding the scripting, but just constant visualization. Yes.
Yeah. And pull that scripting in.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I would never have dreamed playing chess in your mind.
Right. No, I wouldn't either. I'd have to learn how to play it first. I played it once many years ago. But I think it's any practice. So you can change behavior. You can change habits and skills through that act. But it has to be exercised and practiced over and over.
And you know what I'm thinking, Darlene, is okay, if I'm a basketball player, I might in my mind script and visualize me making all the 3-point shots,
Yes. Yes.
And I
You're
would
absolutely
think,
right.
that would just give you such a positive mindset.
Yes.
And we could use that in so many ways.
Yes. Well, I suspect some of the athletes do that, even if they don't frame it as that way. But, remember Dan Jansen, the speed skater? And I don't know if you remember him in the Olympics.
Yes.
Long ago. Well, he couldn't get the gold. he couldn't get the gold right away, and he almost gave up. But he practiced, I think, a form of mental rehearsal. He went to a sports psychologist, and brushing his teeth, and taking a shower. He kept saying over and over he could do it, and I suspect he visualized with it, and he got the gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And myself, I do daily affirmations, and
Yes.
and like, for example, I say things like my book, helping others, or my show helping others, and you visualize that and you see that as done and out there, and it creates an energy too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Gives that energy to source.
Yeah, it's energy, and it reinforces that positive belief that you can do it.
Yes.
What do you have to lose by trying? What do you have to lose by visualizing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So would you say this is also a great tool? Let's say you've begun a new business.
Yes.
And you're, working hard to develop this business. You can use that.
Yes.
In that area.
Yes, because in my book, I talk about Unstuck as an acronym. U is for unique, N is for new, S is for strength, T is for tenacity. And I said of all the elements, without tenacity sometimes is the one that helps put you over the top, helps keep you going. It's really the most, I don't want to say important ingredient, but probably the most powerful ingredient when you feel like everything else just isn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And you also, I believe, mention with college.
Yes. College kids, nowadays, a lot of them have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And I think a lot of it, they have the tools, but they don't realize they have the tools within them to self-soothe. They have the tools within them to believe they can perform, that they can do test taking. I know there's a lot of pressure on them these days, but they can do that. I've worked with college students for test taking, and they've done well, some of them, on their tests. I also work with a young woman that had traveled to Europe, and she had a lot of anxiety. And her parents knew that I knew her. I knew them too. And they asked me to help her out. And so I did some hypnotherapy, mental rehearsal, helped her focus that she can stay there, and if she can get control of her anxiety. And she did. She didn't come home. She was there. Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
I mean, those are tools that just can change a life.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
You must have a lot of fun with sharing this with others in your counseling. Would you say you have found your passion, Darlene?
I've had my passion being a therapist for 30 years, but I think I've expanded on it now. I really love taking what I've developed, that foundation, and being able to give my message out on the larger platform, and really reminding people I'm really someone that, not just, as I say in the back of my book, refurbish my home, but I've helped study the foundation, that I understand what it takes to help build that back. I recognize that there's much unfairness in the world, but that what's our choice? Our choice is we either stay stuck in that, mired in that, or we try to take a little bit of glimmer of light that sometimes is the one thing we can take to help us see the lights go brighter and brighter and go forward. Yeah. So it's very, very rewarding. It's very, very rewarding. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yes. Yes.
What you've witnessed and experienced, and how wonderful that must make you feel. And
yes.
Oh
yes.
gosh. And it, just so fantastic to be a positive energy in the world.
I feel it is. I forget sometimes that I'm so positive, and people point it out to me. And they said, I wish I could be positive. I said, well, here's some of that. Here's some of that energy. So, yes.
Now, Darlene, I understand you have in the making a new podcast called The Power of You. Tell us about that, please.
Yes. Well, I decided to do a podcast. First of all, my husband suggested it 6 months ago. I said, why would I do that? And then I started being on these podcasts. I said, why wouldn't I do that? I'm a relationship person. I love conversing. And I decided that I'm going to go with the population of the Gen Xers and the Boomers, but anyone can listen. So it's for people over 40, women over 40, and the men who wish to join them, that feel like they're stuck and need to see that there's purpose and connection all kinds of things that we can acquire in the next chapters of our lives. Because what I've been finding, and a disturbing note, is a lot of women, especially men too, but women have found after 50, there's what's left. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? There's so much left. And disturbingly, there was a research study done, and they found that men's, unfortunately, suicide has continued to go up, but for women, it went up 80% from age 44 to 64. And the researchers were baffled. They could not figure out one particular reason. And they thought it was financial disappointment, substance abuse. And I said, I also think it's about connection and purpose. So that's one of the reasons I also want to go on and develop this podcast, because I know so many people, not just experts, but people who have done exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yes. And, and I think as we age, you can get a little depressed with it. Really, it can be exciting. What am I going to do now? Myself, I'm turning 60 next week. Yes. I'm just going, wow. I'm going to make my 60s fantastic, even though I can't believe it.
I know.
But I'm turning 60 already. But, really, you can look at it in two different ways. Oh, darn, I'm 60. Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to have my 60s be my best.
That's right. Exactly. So good for you, and happy birthday, because you can tell you have positive energy also.
Thank you. I've got about 4 more days. Woohoo!
Yay.
I actually had a t-shirt made that says made in 1959.
Congratulations. Yes.
Oh, well, this is just absolutely amazing. And, it really is exciting, Darlene, that we all have the choice of where we're going to put our thoughts and actions, positive or negative. We really do. And that's really empowering, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I said, again, some of us, it's easier to do than others, but I understand, but we have to see what choice we're on this journey of life, and we have to decide how we're going to live our journey throughout the course of it. And it really is about having many chapters. And I always say, whether you're in the late afternoon, the sunset, which can sometimes be the most beautiful part of a day, right? Or even the twilight, which can be gorgeous. Look at the stars. We must find meaning and connection in some form, whatever will be that way, because it will give you a sense of purpose. It will give you a sense of wanting to live and making the best of this journey that we're all on.
Yes. And another point that you have shared is vanquish the imposter syndrome. And so what is the imposter syndrome?
Well, that's a very good question. I asked the same question last year. I had a client come in and she said, Darlene, I suffer from the imposter syndrome. Do you know what that is? And first I said, yes. And then I said, no. And then I said, what is it? And she explained, and of course I knew what it was. It wasn't framed in that way. But the imposter syndrome is the belief that, especially for successful women, men too, but more successful women, that somehow they're not as successful as people perceive them to be, and they're going to be found out that they're frauds, or they don't really know what they're talking about. Can you believe this?
Wow.
It was coined in the 1970s by Dr. Krantz and Amizi, I believe, and they discovered this amongst mainly successful women.
Wow.
So I believe that we have to take what we have, the reality, the facts, to help vanquish it, and to practice techniques, again, of mental rehearsal, focused attention, and practice and recognize that you're not an imposter. There are many amazing imposters out there, but they don't have imposter syndrome. They're authentic imposters. People often, most of the time with the imposter syndrome, are not imposters. They're highly successful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say that's like believing that you actually are as awesome as others believe you are and see you?
That's right. You have to, if you don't believe it, you need to practice it, and you need to take it in and practice saying it and visualize it and recognize this is about confidence. It's not arrogance. You have the right to own that. You have the right to say, this is mine. I deserve to feel, as you put it so lovely, awesome.
Yes. And I love that point. It's not arrogance, it's confidence.
That's right.
You know,
Yes.
knowing that and appreciating yourself and loving how awesome you are, because gosh, we each have our own special gifts and our own special everything about us that makes us unique and awesome.
Yes. I talk about that also in my book. I said, we all have uniqueness, and people say, well, I'm friendly, but so-and-so's friendly. I said, but yes, that's different on you. You're wearing a different friendliness than someone else, right?
Yes.
We have unique DNA. No one else has our DNA.
Yes.
Even identical twins, they have different fingertips. So I said, you have to remind yourself that it's like wearing a dress. It will look one way on one person, another way on another. And so we have to see our uniqueness as being exquisite, our exquisite DNA.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
It's not a competition with anyone. Right. We are just our own unique, fantastic self.
Yes.
Oh, that is just a great point.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm glad you said we have our own gifts, because my C in Unstuck, we have, then I said U again for unique. Then we have C for creative. We are created and we create. And some people are child prodigies. Yes, their gifts show themselves early on, and others come out much later. Why? Who knows? There's probably many variables. But sometimes people don't develop their creativity, as you know, until 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Yes.
Yes.
And really, if you think about it, we don't stop creating. We create our whole lives. We have the ability to create and shine our whole lives. It doesn't stop at a certain age.
That's right. That's right. So when people say they're too old, it's like, I just read a quote by Mark Twain, and I can't remember exactly what it said, but he talked about ages. Basically, it's you make it relevant. It's not relevant unless you make it relevant. And I'm paraphrasing what he said. Yeah.
Yes. I just saw a little something on TV. This amazing woman, I think it was 105, and spends her days going out and doing for others, helping with a nonprofit organization. I mean, at 105, bless her heart. Yeah.
Yeah. She's taking her gifts of having good health at that age and giving back. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, we all have obstacles, and that really is something when we think about it does help the pain a little bit, because we know we're not alone. Life gives us obstacles.
Yes.
And then we also know we can overcome them. It is possible. Would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. That's the biggest thing. I use that example of the Greek myth, Sisyphus, rolling the ball up the hill. He was condemned by the king in ancient Greek mythology, and forever to roll the ball up and it would roll back. And sometimes we feel like Sisyphus, but the beauty is we're not Sisyphus. We can get that ball over. And sometimes you have to circumvent and go another way, but eventually you will succeed in whatever way that may be. Maybe it won't go over the hill, but you'll find another path to get it around. Somehow you must persist. You must have that grit and keep going.
I love that example because you're rolling and oh my gosh, it rolled back. Oh my gosh, another way. But it, you stay on course and you get it accomplished.
Yes.
That is a fantastic analogy.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, Darlene, this is so fantastic. We have about 3 minutes left in the show. What last thoughts do you want to leave with everyone today?
Yeah, I want people to believe in themselves no matter what. I want them to recognize no matter what phase they're in or chapter. Do not just sit back. Don't allow complacency or fear or feeling like an imposter impede you in any way. Seek out people that give you support. There's always people out there. And remind yourself that you have gifts within you. We all do. Everybody has different ones. We know some things come out in different ways for different people. But remind yourself, if you have a desire, begin to build on that. Begin to develop it. One of the things I've added on with unique is take your unique gifts and think about a form of action. See yourself running towards it. See yourself, galvanizing. You must take action with your gifts. And once you do, you don't know what can happen. You'll become unbeatable, hopefully. And really believe in yourself. And maybe it won't be something you could do at 20, but maybe it's a form of that. You
Yes.
don't know, Yeah.
Yes. I love it. I love
Yes.
it. And Darlene, would you please share your website information or any contact information you'd like to give everyone?
Sure, absolutely. My website is easy. It's darlenecorbett.com, www.darlene, D-A-R-L-E-N-E, Corbett, C-O-R-B-E-T-T.com. I'm also on Facebook at Darlene Corbett Unstuck. That's my Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. It all has the Unstuck in it. And you can also sign up for my newsletter if you go to my website, darlenecorbett.com. And also, if you'd like to purchase my book, you can find it in Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. I believe it's also in Target, Books A Million. And it's called Stop Depriving the World of You. And I'd invite you to read it just so you can see that you have all within you. And now we just have to help you catapult and go forward.
Oh, I love it. I love it, Darlene.
Thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you so much. So happy to have had you on the show. This was fantastic. Big love, hugs, and blessings. And to everybody out there, love, hugs, and blessings. Thank you so much. Bye.